Alright, today's video is going to be on this Echo chainsaw. This one happens to be a CS300, but I'd imagine many of them are the same, at least in this type, with the carburetor on the front. I'm going to be replacing the carburetor itself, and it's a pretty simple, straightforward project. No special tools required. Good for a DIYer or anybody that just wants to know how this one comes apart. In a previous video, I had already replaced the primer bulb on this. If you haven't already, now would be a great time while you have the fuel lines off, while you have the primer lines off. Take care of everything at one time. Got you zoomed in there pretty good. These are both flat and Phillips. This line comes off easy because that is a brand new line I put on with the primer we already put on this machine in the earlier video of primer replacement. And that's got a little washer there. I'm going to see if I can leave that attached. Not really. And the washer just came off of that side. Pull that out of the way. Will that be enough? Don't know. I'm just going to take that plate out of there. Looks like it's going to get just barely in our way. Might have to pull this line up to clear the screws. What's holding you? Oh, the throttle rod. Let me find a good way to get that off and I'll bring you back. Okay, and this one, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it full throttle. That makes the throttle linkage longer. Yeah, maybe not full throttle. It just slides off this way. But how to get it exactly unhooked, the easiest, there we go. That's it. And then the last one, there's another fuel line to the tank here. This one I haven't had off. I did not replace that one. And there we go. On this one, I'm just going to make sure that back carburetor plate is nice and torqued. And it is. That one's slipping a little bit, but yeah, we're good. Now I'm going to compare my new carb, old carb. See that the fuel lines are on the same side. The holes look right. Diameter of the intake looks right. I think we're going to be okay. Looks like every line is where it should be. So that's a good thing. The kit I've got came with, of course, you need a gasket, fuel filter. This is a one-way check valve that allows air to go into the tank and replace spent fuel. I'm not going to replace that. The other gasket. This is the fuel filter that goes inside the fuel tank, and it also falls to the bottom of the tank, so no matter what position the saw is in, it's down in the fuel. And this kit even came with some fuel hose. So I think I will replace the intake fuel hose just in case it's bad too. If it breaks off, it won't get fuel. It needs that weighted filter to be in the tank, dropping down to whatever the spot is the lowest in the tank to grab the fuel. Because a saw can be run upside down, sideways, anything. And this one came with a cheap plug, but I like to use at least a decent plug. Maybe those are decent, but there's not even a name on it, so I don't think I'll put that in there. As far as replacing that fuel line, I'm going to pull this all the way out. And we're going to make this new one the exact same length as the old one. Gotta get some relatively long needle nose. I think I see it down in there. Oh yeah, it's all coiled up. It's probably a good thing I'm replacing it, because I don't think it's should be looking like this. No, it's hard as a it's all like wound up, like it wants to. Yeah, that wasn't falling down to the bottom, so good thing we're replacing it. I'm just gonna push it down through, I think. Push and pull. Yeah, that one was, I don't understand the idea there. It was coiled, but how is it ever gonna drop to any different position because it's coiled? It's like got a memory to it. Not good. Just like that, the second chainsaw I have two identical saws here that I'm doing. They're both coiled like this. So would the factory have really done that, or is that just the way it ended up once it shriveled up? But this type of line does have a memory to it, which is interesting. Usually they are made to flop around quite a bit, and these ones are kind of going to stay in that position. I'm just going to make it the exact same length and make the installed length. I'm looking at the ripples where it was going through the grommet. I'm just going to make that the same because they knew what they were doing when they made it that length at the factory, apparently. What I'm going to try is putting it into this hole, the grommet, first, feeding it out, then attaching the filter weight assembly. And I'm going to see if I can get this to go easily. It's kind of hard to see black on black inside there. Plan B. Grommet coming out. I'll feed it manually and then put it in as an assembly. If that'll even go. Yes, it will. So what I'm going to do, feed that the same amount. I'm looking where the crimp marks are from where the old one was bit down there. You can barely see it, but it's there. Barely was sticking out. Something around there. Put the little spring clamp on. Feed my fuel pickup screen onto the line, or the line onto this pickup screen, however you want to say it. Now that can go in. Good. Back to the carburetors. We're going to know which hole to put it in because that hole is dirty. Just look for witness marks or whatever you find. It's the one on that side. Now I'm going to see, do I have to get this throttle thing hooked up first? I think I did. I've got to get this gasket in there too. That's the new gasket. I already pulled the other one off camera. I pulled that one off the intake. It was just barely on there, so that's fine. Maybe what I want to do, I'm going to glue this on there just a little bit, just to hold that while I assemble the machine. You really don't even need glue. You could just stick that with grease or whatever you have, to just something to tack it real quick. But being that I have this glue right here, I'm going to use glue. Super glue. So I don't have to wait 20 minutes. Now it's a matter of wiggling it in there. Getting the fuel lines out of the way here. Primer lines. I'm going to make this longer right now. I'm going to pull some more out so I can get that line on first. That one's probably going to be the one that's going to fight me the most. Or maybe it has to be short to make the bend. Hard to do on camera, that's for sure, when everybody's watching. I just could see what was fighting me, at least as far as lining up the carburetor. There's an idle adjustment screw there, and it's got to go inside that rubber boot. And I did not have that inside that rubber boot. So let me try to work on that. Whoops, she's slipping out of frame there. Let me try to get it to the left side there. Get that rubber boot to come up. These fuel lines are in my way, primer lines. I keep calling them fuel lines, same thing. Same stuff. There's just a rubber boot there that has to go around it. So when you stick your screwdriver in there, you're heading to the screw, not stopping in the rubber. This is why you'll see on my channel, I typically don't work on chainsaws. At least these older ones really weren't engineered with a guy with my patience level in mind. All these little things have to attach perfectly, or else, you know, something's not going to be adjustable, or there it goes. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Get this primer line out of harm's way. And if you're touching these, and if you're not replacing your fuel lines, I really recommend you do. You are going to create yourself a nightmare situation, potentially, by not replacing them while you're in here, because if you have to go in here again, it's just that much more frustration if she's leaking when you get her out. All right, I think I got that set. Now I'm going to work on that choke plate. All right, now you can watch me fumble with the choke plate. Which I believe was facing that way. Or was it the other way? Let's see which way it likes to go. That's the way it likes to go. It wants to lay flat right there. And let's see if that was pivoting on that. In would be off. Yeah, that's it. Got my little washer there. See if I can get it to all line up now. I think it's going. It's going. Okay. This one, that little washer, I'm sure has to be in the middle here. I just placed it in there. Then the top plate, or this little horseshoe. You can't even see what I'm doing. There we go. Had it zoomed in a little too far for my own good. Sorry about that, but I'm not taking it apart even for YouTube. Now, if I did it right, this will still function. And it does. Good. Nice. Let me get that last fuel line now. That's the big black one. I figured maybe once I got the carb mounted, it would be a little easier to get this one going, but maybe it's the opposite. Let's see. There she goes. And then I'm going to have to get that kink out of it, of course, by pulling it through some. Luckily, it's new line, nice and supple. Pull that through till that kink comes out of it. That's about like we want it. Yeah, that line just doesn't really work like it should on most saws. Most saws you can hear them drop. If yours doesn't have that length of line that I put what yours had, because I'm not sure that this one is factory. All right, other than that, put our little cheesy fuel filter, air filter. And there we have it. New carburetor, new primer. I will tune this one off. This is not a tuning video, this is a carburetor replacement video, so I will tune this one outside when I get a chance. The adjustments are right here. High, low, idle speed, choke works. We got our primer. That Echo CS300 is Wildwood certified. Thanks for watching.